really cool. So I guess before I start, I just want to say that I just want to present some of the things that I know about e-commerce. I'm not going to give anybody like the magic pill. I think if anybody tries to say that they have like this is the answer to all of your problems for getting revenue, like they probably are trying to scam you. So just be aware of that. But what I'm trying to present is just information, things that might be helpful for you guys to know, just about your websites. So let me share my screen. Hopefully we don't have any issues. Okay. All right. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Again, if you guys have any questions, feel free to throw them in the chat and we will have a Q&A towards the end. And I'd also like to, if there's time, I'm sure we'll have time, but I'd like to review like somebody's website live, and maybe provide some pointers or things that you're doing right. Maybe we can even do two, depending on how our time is going. So yeah, so about me. So I started Advanced Designs a few years ago, and I've got 5+ years of experience in e-commerce. I've worked at this point with multiple seven-figure brands as well as brand new startups, getting them up and running from the ground up. And I've got experience in Amazon. I've been working with some brands selling on Amazon for 5.5, maybe 6 years now. And I build Shopify stores like from scratch. So lots of experience in those two markets. Also a little bit in Walmart as well. So I just want to go over like a few things just in terms of like breaking down each of the steps of what revenue means and like how to increase it and like kind of simplify it for everybody. So essentially, your revenue is composed of your traffic multiplied by your conversion rate. Now, this holds true for any kind of business. Whether you're a brick and mortar store, your traffic is however many people are entering your store to make purchases, and then your conversion rate is how many of those people actually purchase. So, like if 100 people come into your store or onto your website and 10 of them purchase, your conversion rate would be 10%. So your traffic times your conversion rate, 10% would equal your revenue. So if you need to increase your revenue, you could look at like, okay, I either need to increase my traffic or increase my conversion rate. So it's really simple, like from that metric and that standpoint, but let's go a little bit deeper now. So let's look at traffic. Where is your traffic coming from? All of this is super important. Like, do you know what your target audience is? Like, where are they? If you can't get your product in front of those people, then it's going to be really hard to grow your traffic. So, are your customers, are they social media users? If they're social media users, but all your ads are on Google, then you're missing your target audience. Are they on TikTok? Twitter, X, Amazon, any of these platforms, like they all come with different metrics for traffic and then like different complexities in terms of like how to get that traffic onto your website if you have your own website or if you're on Amazon or Walmart and how to get those people on your pages as opposed to your competitors' pages. The different ways to increase traffic. So we've got, obviously advertising, affiliates, influencers, organic content, SEO. There are other methods for traffic, like you can send out like letters to people. There's post, SMS, texting, email. All of these things can help improve your traffic. Now, a few things to notice is that like advertising is super important, but any traffic that you get with advertising needs to be maintained with advertising. So if you don't have good organic or SEO content to back up your advertising, it's going to be really hard to scale on advertising alone. Not to mention, like your ad cost is going to be much higher than if you have a lot of organic content where people are naturally finding your website. influencers, affiliates. If you find the right influencer or affiliate, that can make a huge difference on your top line revenue. So searching for an affiliate that kind of matches your brand, or maybe they really like your product, and then that person is essentially doing your marketing for you. So like you don't need to make marketing campaigns if you find a really good affiliate because they're basically doing it on their own, like on their social media. But if you're going to work with them, you just want to make sure that you're rewarding them, because like a lot of people they want to work with affiliates, but they don't want to pay them well. And I think from an affiliate standpoint, like if you want them to increase your revenue, you want to reward them so that they're getting a significant amount of revenue as well. And then the more that they do, the more that you earn as well. So like typically nowadays I see like affiliates getting anywhere between 15 to 20%. So if you're gonna do affiliate marketing, like I would say that that's a good place to start. Or you could even do like a tiered system. I've seen like a lot of companies do like they'll start an intro level for affiliates or influencers at like 10% of your of any sales they earn. And if they get a certain number of sales, then they would increase to maybe 15%. Or maybe if you have a third tier, then they go up to 20%. And then that's incentivizing them actually to work harder for you because there's a greater reward if they continue to sell more. Organic content, SEO. So organic content, it's kind of SEO and organic content are interesting in just that like you don't necessarily see a result from them immediately, but it's important to do because Google is going to be constantly looking at all of this content that you have on your site and analyzing it, and then they reward you for having the answers to the questions that people are searching for. So like SEO is essentially just, can I answer the question that people want answered? And can I answer it effectively and quickly? And is my page fast enough to present the results to people? Because nowadays, like people don't have any attention span. I think they've done studies where the average attention span of people nowadays is less than a goldfish. So it's not great. So you have to really sell what you're selling or provide information for people, like that. It's got to be fast. So going back to traffic and sales channels. So I just wanted to present some different pros and cons to some of the major sales channels that I've worked with. And again, there's other ones, like TikTok, Facebook, Etsy, Pinterest. All of these have different ecosystems and they can all play together, but like what governs each one and their algorithms, they're all different. So they all have different pros and cons. But these three I have the most experience in. So if we look at Amazon to start, Amazon's really great in terms of it has its traffic already built in. So you don't have to do a ton of work to get traffic to your page, or I guess to get traffic on Amazon because there's already millions and millions of people looking on Amazon for products. Now, if you can get your product to stand out and be distinct in a slew of other products, then you're likely to get a lot of sales. Another pro is they have fulfillment options provided. So if you're not able to self-fulfill products, especially if you're getting, like 100 orders a day, if you're a single person or a two-person team, it could be hard to fulfill all that and still do everything you need to do. So both Amazon and Walmart provide options for that. It does depend on your product though. Some maybe um, some products that are maybe more sensitive, like if you have something that would be considered toxic, like RAID, excuse me, like a pest control thing, maybe they might not fulfill certain products because of regulations. So stuff like that you want to be aware of. But Amazon also has options to help you build revenue. So aside from just the traffic, they have built-in options for subscription services. So if you're selling cookies, you want people to subscribe to your cookies because you're not now paying advertising costs on every subsequent order. So initially, like you're gonna have to pay ad costs, which is a con for Amazon. Amazon is a pay-to-play platform. So if you want to sell there, you are almost guaranteed to have to run ads. If you're not running ads, I think it would be really hard to make any progress. Unless you have like external traffic driving to Amazon, but I think they provide enough resources that you don't need to send external traffic. They will reward you though. If you send external traffic to a page on Amazon, you can actually get credit back for any sales that you send to Amazon. So that's cool too. Other things that they help with, A/B testing. A/B testing is huge. For those that don't know, A/B testing is basically like when you have one version of a page and you compare it to another version of a page, and then your Amazon is analyzing the two pages that you've presented, and they'll say, all right, this page sold this much and this page sold this much. This one's better. So otherwise, you don't really know. It's harder to know what works. So the fact that they provide that in-house is really great. And you should always be testing. There's never a reason not to test. Cons for Amazon, again, it's pay to play. So if you want to be on there, you're gonna have to do like I want to say average cost per click is I think it's like $1.50 or something. It's quite high. And it's very competitive. I think there's over 1 million businesses on Amazon trying to sell products. So if you want to sell on Amazon, like you're gonna have to compete against any number of businesses that are selling the same box of cookies that you're trying to sell. You know, what about your box of cookies is better than everybody else's box of cookies? And then you have to convince the customer that yours is the best for the price that you're offering. Another con, limited page customization. So you can do, I think up to seven, well, it's like 9 photos, and then you can add a bunch of videos in the buy box. Aside from that, you can customize your title, your bullet points, and then they've also got for brands that are on there, if you're brand registered, you can add in brand story and A+ content, which is farther down the page. And all of this really helps to provide more information about your brand as a whole and like what your brand does. And Amazon's found that for businesses that use the branded content, they actually do see an increase in conversion rate. So if you are a brand on Amazon, you absolutely want to use all of that. Next, Walmart. So Walmart's kind of similar. They have built-in traffic. They also have fulfillment options. One pro over Amazon is that because Walmart is newer in terms of their online store, their cost per click is much lower. I think their average is around 50 cents as opposed to Amazon's being greater than $1. And it's not as competitive as Amazon. So I think there's like around 100,000 sellers on Walmart compared to Amazon's 1 million. So your competition is just you have a much better chance of selling a product on Walmart. But a con is that there's less traffic as well. So people are still trained to go to Amazon if they want the online deal.
A newsletter.
Oh, sorry. I could hear somebody talking.
Keep going.
Okay, thanks. So there's also less restrictions on Walmart in terms of third-party sellers being able to sell your product, which this is really weird to me. Especially if you're a brand, like a brand on Amazon, you can protect your products, and you absolutely should do this. Because if you're not brand registered and you just try and sell a product, if you do well, somebody else can jump on your listing, and you're basically now competing against your own listing for the buy box. So if you're gonna sell on Amazon, I strongly recommend to be branded so that you can protect your listing against other people selling your product on your listing. Walmart, for whatever reason, even if you're brand registered, other people can still do this. So I don't know why they do that, but I mean, typically the third-party seller is going to be at a higher price point. So most of the time you're still going to get the buy box. But if you like run out of inventory, then their offer is going to show up. And so now this other party is selling your product for, X amount more than you should be selling it for. And who knows what customer experience they're going to have with this third party seller. It's just not a great representation of your brand. So that's like one thing I really don't like about Walmart. But again, lower ad costs, not as competitive as Amazon. So they do have some pros. Shopify. So Shopify Pros fully customizable, especially if you have a dev who knows Shopify really well. Like they can do a lot of really cool stuff. If you don't have a dev, you can always just purchase a theme. So the Shopify theme community is like pretty extensive. There's tons of themes, and once you buy one, then you basically own the theme and all future updates to that theme. So if you want to do a Shopify store, I definitely recommend searching the theme library, finding a theme that has a lot of the features that you would want in your website. Um, and then that way, like you kind of get most of the way there in terms of functionality. Uh, you have control over the shipping fees. So you can decide like, yeah, I want to charge this amount up to $50. People have to pay $10 for shipping or $5 for shipping, but over 50, it's free. And then you choose your fulfillment channel. So maybe you have great rates with UPS. You can connect UPS to your Shopify store, and Shopify will actually give you good rates on UPS and FedEx. So those are good options. You can sell through social media on Shopify. So you can connect all of your different platforms. And then if somebody makes an order, it'll just go straight into Shopify. We're actually seeing right now that TikTok is having like amazing results for people on advertising. So if you can get a TikTok shop up and running and you get some good ads, like the costs to run those ads are um, really efficient right now. And then another thing that's like super important that maybe a lot of people don't really think about is you have the ability to collect customer emails. So, and I mean, this is the case with any like personal website. You can collect customer emails, but you're not allowed to do this on Amazon or Walmart. You won't get any customer information. Like you'll get their first and last name and you'll get an address because you got to ship out the product, but there's not really a way to follow up with these customers, which can make customer service really hard sometimes. And there are tools that you can use to message back and forth with customers, but they really try to limit your exposure to customer emails. So the ability to collect emails is super, super important. Especially nowadays, like if you have somebody's contact information, they've basically given you a doorway to directly promote to them. And gaining, especially with all of there's a lot more regulations in terms of consumer privacy. So I know recently, I think Apple went through a big change where they had to like make some big updates, and Google, I think as well. They had to make some big updates to their privacy and like information they were collecting. So now businesses need to get way more first party data. So what I mean by that is like customers that are giving you information about themselves voluntarily. So maybe on your website, instead of just saying, "Hey, give me your email, I'll give you 10%," you could intro a pop-up that says, again, if we go back to cookies, instead of just saying, "Give me your email," you could say, "What flavor are you looking for?" And then you offer a few different suggestions on the pop-up, maybe your most popular flavors. So maybe you have four options. One says chocolate chip, and another says like oatmeal raisin. Obviously, everybody's going to pick chocolate chip, but for the purposes of the example, so like everybody picks chocolate chip, and then the next version of the pop-up, it says, "All right, now give me your email, and you get your 10%." So then you can see like, oh, actually, more people picked oatmeal raisin than I thought they were going to, but now I can market to those people specifically if there's a sale on oatmeal raisin. Or for the chocolate chip people, I can say, hey, like, it'd go really good with your cookie is milk. So like we're actually selling milk now, you can come buy the milk. And then because you have that data that they gave you, you know that that's true about that person. Cons, so a Shopify con, or I guess a personal website, is that traffic is way more challenging. Um, you need to run advertising. You got to do like social media, uh, tons of organic content. You got to post regularly. So like getting people to your site it's just tough. Especially nowadays when, like I said, people's attention spans are so small. You really have to grab somebody's attention very quickly. And then like you have to compete against these other businesses that have great offers. So like if you're starting a new store on Shopify, you now have to compete against people that are selling on Amazon, where Amazon is offering customers free shipping for all their orders as long as they're subscribed. And it's fast shipping. If I can go and buy just about anything on Amazon and it'll show up in 2 days. So like, can you be competitive with that? Now, I guess going back to a pro is that you aren't paying Amazon or Walmart's fulfillment fees. So if they're fulfilling for you, it's great that they're kind of like taking that burden on, but they're going to charge you a fee for that, and it's going to come out of your every single unit you sell. We'll get on. We'll talk about more. We'll talk about that more in a little bit. All right, so conversion rate. So conversion rate is pretty simple. So again, it's just your number of your orders divided by the number of your visitors, and then you get your conversion rate. So if I have 10 orders and 100 visitors, my conversion rate would be 10%, which would be fantastic. So if you have a 10% conversion rate on your store, you're doing very well. So if we look at like average conversion rates, so I was able to find this information from irpcommerce.com. This is from September 2023 to September 2024. This is just average conversion rates just for e-commerce in general. So as you can see, like this is 2%, 1.5%. It hovers right around 2. Not that high, for a personal website. And we can see here that the average for Shopify is like 1.5%. So you need a lot of traffic to get any measurable progress, especially if you're new. And people don't really know who you are yet as a brand. The brands that are bigger, they don't, people already have in their mind, they already understand that brand and what they offer. So they don't need to then prove, the brand doesn't need to like explain themselves, if that makes sense. But if we look here, Shopify average 1.5, good anywhere, like you could say good is like anywhere over 2.5, but I like to shoot for 3%. And then if you're doing over 5%, you are doing fantastic. I think you're in the top 10 or 15% of stores, if you have a greater than 5% conversion rate. Amazon's conversion rate metric is a little bit different. I mean, they do have conversion rate, but they really like this metric called unit session percentage. So unit session percentage, it's similar to conversion rate, but they make money more on the units that are sold as opposed to the number of orders. So if I have one order with 10 units, they like that more than 2 orders with 4 units each, because the number of units is greater. Because Amazon they'll pull revenue from every single unit that you sell. So a unit session percentage, though, is like if we go back to this slide, instead of number of orders, it'd be number of units over number of visitors. So if I sold 20 units and I had 100 visitors, my unit session percentage would be 20%. Now, the average for this is about 10%. So good would be like 15 to 20%. And then anything over 20 or 25%, you're doing pretty good in terms of unit session percentage. Uh, Walmart, the average is about 5.5. I'm not really sure what good would be. I guess if you're above average, then you're doing well. So maybe a goal for Walmart would be probably around 7.5% to maybe 10%. That's probably what I would shoot for in terms of conversion rate. And then some different ways to improve your conversion rates. So first, social proof. You need social proof. And this could be in the form of reviews. This could be in like if you were featured in some kind of publication, you want to have the logo of that publication. If you've won any awards, how can you prove to people that your product is as good as you say it is? Because it might be the best product in the world, but if nobody else has bought it or if there's no reviews for it, like people are naturally inclined not to trust you until there's other people that have said, yeah, I tried it and it's legit. And even with that, like you can have all 5-star ratings, but even that doesn't seem trustworthy. Because like if you go to a website and they have 100 5-star reviews, you're gonna be like, this is fake. There's no way 100 people all gave it 5 stars. So even with that, like there's like the what's the word? Um oh my gosh, I hate it when like you just blank on words. But like the mentality, the mindset of the customer is like they want to see stuff that's real, especially nowadays with AI and how easy it is to create stuff and like it's getting harder and harder to tell what's real. So like people want to know like okay, like this seems like a real product. This seems trustworthy. How can you present that to them in a way that's easy to understand and they can grasp it quickly? So, which goes into the next point of clarity. Again, people don't trust what they don't understand. So you got to be really clear in your messaging. Now, a lot of people like to be clever. Um, like I like to be clever too, like in marketing and stuff. It's way more fun to be clever. But if people need to take the time to like understand the cleverness of your message, then you're probably already lost them. It's way better to clearly explain what you're offering, especially when there are tons of other brands and options for people that maybe they already understand that brand. Like if I think of Dr. Squatch, I know immediately, like that's like soap. They sell soap and like bathroom stuff. Or like if I think Nike, Nike sells sportswear, or and shoes. So like I know immediately what those brands do. Can you convey that to a customer? And can you do it quickly? Like when they jump on your site, like that main banner or the main section, which is called above the fold. Above the fold is like what people see on your website right when they jump on it. So are they clearly understanding what you're offering right when they jump onto your website? Another thing is friction. So you want to now there's what I like to call two different types of friction. So you have intentional friction and unintentional friction. So intentional friction would be like a pop-up that is collecting people's information. So some people don't like pop-ups, it could force people off your site, but if you can collect people's emails, it's well worth it. So that's intentional friction, or even structuring friction in a way that prevents people from leaving. So like if you go to hover your mouse over the X button to close out of the window, some websites will have a pop-up that says, wait, don't go, I'll give you extra 10%. That's more friction, but it's friction that's preventing people from leaving as opposed to preventing them from purchasing. Unintentional friction would be like your your website is difficult to use. Maybe people don't understand how to navigate it very well. or maybe the load time, it takes forever to load your site, which is another point. Walmart actually did tests on page speed, and they found that for every second of page speed that they increased, they were able to increase conversion rates by 2%. So reducing your website loading time makes a huge difference in your revenue. And it just makes it easier. Like you don't want to sit around and wait, if I can get cookies over here, but it takes 4 hours for their site to load, I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to go to this other place or to Amazon, who has a really fast website. All right, so revenue. Okay. So revenue is basically broken up into a number of different factors. So you've got your profit, and then your profit is everything left over after your shipping, your customer acquisition cost, your cost of goods. I'm sure there's some other, like overhead. And then your shipping, you have to consider like pick and pack fees if you're working with a third party seller, carrier fees, like how much do you have to pay FedEx or UPS or something like that to actually deliver your product. If it's Amazon, Amazon's going to pick and pack. They're going to take a pick and pack fee for every product that you sell, like every unit. Customer acquisition. So this is broken up by like advertising, your advertising costs, sales, your sales and marketing team, your software and platform fees, things like that. And then your cost of goods, how much does it actually cost to produce the item that you're trying to sell? And then after all of that, you have your profit. So if you want to increase profit, you have to look at like, okay, how do I reduce these other costs? I found with one brand, the shipping department analyzed the dimensions on one of their products, and they found that if they just made their product like slightly narrower, it decreased. They actually ended up in a better shipping rate. And it wasn't even that much of a change. I want to say it was like millimeters or centimeters of width difference. And I think it decreased their cost by like 10 cents per unit. So over thousands of units, that's a ton of money. Every small amount that you can get back really adds up over time. Reducing customer acquisition costs. If you can acquire a customer now, these days, it's really expensive to get new customers. So once you have a customer, you want to do whatever you can to keep that customer, because there are other competitors of yours that are doing their best to take your customer and convert them into their customer. So once you acquire that customer, how do you retain them? If you have like a subscription program, like for the cookie example, I would probably want to set up some kind of subscriber offer so that I don't need to continually market and acquire this same customer over and over again. Even though I've already acquired them, and it's still less expensive once they are a customer, once you have their email, I don't need to pay as much in advertising, to get this customer to purchase a second time, because I can email them directly, or I can remarket to them through like a retargeting campaign. But they also already know who you are at that point. So you don't have to go through the whole process of explaining, you know, we're a cookie brand. Maybe you're selling something complicated though. Um, maybe you're selling like some kind of fancy umbrella that like has this feature that nobody's ever heard of. You have to explain the feature because it's like you have the coolest umbrella ever, but nobody knows why because it's complicated. All they see is like, oh, it's an umbrella. And like, I don't want to spend $200 for this umbrella. You have to, but yeah, but it'll make you coffee every day. It's like, oh, well, okay, maybe I will get the $200 umbrella. Um, so having systems to like retain your customers is crucial, and extending your customer lifetime value. So for those of you who don't know, customer lifetime value is the full amount that they spend over a period of time. So if you retain a customer on average for about a year, you want to say like, okay, how much is the average customer spending in a year? And maybe with that cost or with that amount that they're spending, some brands will actually spend more to acquire the customer than the customer will spend on their first order. So like if a customer lifetime value is $1,000, but the first order is only $50, maybe I'm willing to spend 100 to acquire that customer because I know they're going to spend 1,000 over the lifetime of the customer. So think